enjoy a seat at the table and good company, where great conversations and me
And Good Company, conversationalists. All know that. Welcome to And Good Company. I'm Sarah Fiedelholtz, a conversationalist. We all know a great dinner party isn't really about the food. It's about the people seated around the table engaging in lively discussions. And Good Company creates a way to capture smart and important conversations as they happen. I am pleased to be in the company of Andi Hines-Lagemann, who is the founder, we got a lot to go over here, a founder of Tidewater Coaching, the founder of Own Your Success, and the regional director of entrepreneurship at Elevate Northeast Indiana. Mm-hmm. Welcome.
Thank you.
So when I was doing my research and sort of preparing, one of the things that I really noticed about you and your experiences is that you are a perfect example of someone who sort of built the rungs on the professional ladder, like that you had experiences, you had certain jobs, you took what you knew from those jobs, and then you had additional jobs, and then you took all of that and used that as an entrepreneur. It was sort of like, I felt like you were purposely plotting the things that you wanted to learn and learn from other people and have a job in order to become an entrepreneur. Is that a fair assessment of your background? And
I think that's an interesting point of view. From my perspective, it felt very accidental. I never set out to be an entrepreneur. You have these awesome interns, and when I was their age, the word entrepreneur wasn't even like in my vocabulary. Right. So I sort of fell into marketing when I was still in college, got a job in marketing, and
but I think, like, if you look at it, because I have your little CD here. So you worked at an ad agency, and then you worked in development, and then you worked for the coordinator for an event at the Taste of the Arts, and then you worked for the ad agency, I think Federation, right? And then you were an account executive, and then you were like, boom, and so I think all of the things, and then the types of entrepreneurial endeavors that you did, I think took all that you learned. And, what people don't realize is the majority of people do not become entrepreneurs until usually they're in their 40s, because you need that. You can't just jump into, owning a business without knowing what your skills are and to run a business. So
yeah, absolutely.
And then your first foray was the Red Tree, right? That was the corporate events. So everything, I could draw the lines from. I could see, okay, well, she used those skills, and so I think that also in part is what has made you successful. Without you might have done this subconsciously or not had a plan, but I think that it's maximized, and clearly you've gotten very good accolades and rewards. You just recently were awarded from the Indiana Commission for Women, the Torchbearer Award, which helped. They recognize as someone who's been a pioneer and has stepped forward as leaders and breaking down barriers, and and who demonstrate the beacon of courage and perseverance and compassion and inspiration for others. And that's also been through all of your endeavors, sort of your mission of working with women and entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to sort of want to tap into this sort of experience and insight that you have. So what do you believe makes an entrepreneur successful?
The first word that comes to mind is tenacity. I think if you don't have the fortitude and the sort of guts to just keep going every day and through every season of your entrepreneurship journey, you just won't make it. You just have to. People always say to me, "What's your one piece of advice for entrepreneurs?" And I'm like, just keep going.
Yeah, it's what Tammy Duckworth says. It's that grit, perseverance, determination. Yeah, for people to, just get up, and when you fail, you get back up. And,
yep, absolutely.
And what skills do you think that are critical or essential to being an entrepreneur today?
I'm actually in elbow deep into getting my emotional intelligence practitioner certification right now as part of my coaching
Right, because
practice.
you created, we'll talk about, that's Tidewater coaching, which came out of your endeavor. See, I can show you how everything you've done.
No, I know, it definitely builds.
I've got the building of the ladder here for you. So that parlays Own Your Success, which we'll talk about.
Yeah.
But, and then who are you doing for the emotional intelligence certification for? Is that like a coaching trainings program?
Yes. It's through an organization called Multi-Health Systems. So it's actually, my end goal is to go back to school and get my master's in either psychology or social work. I haven't quite landed yet. But
I would have said organizational psychology.
Well, the coaching though is just like really sets my guts on fire. And this emotional intelligence training is like a big chunk of credits toward that, which is really nice. But it's through a company called Multi-Health Systems, and has been so just like eye-opening. And it's a lot of things that I think I sort of knew intuitively. I'm extremely empathetic, and so it's great sort of sharpening of that for me.
Right.
And so when you ask like what's a skill that entrepreneurs need to have, man, I got to think emotional intelligence has to be way up there.
Well, if you look at, but emotional intelligence is really a compounding of several skills of what they call soft skills, which is active listening and empathy and being able to look at things from different perspectives or wanting to build consensus builder. And a lot of times also that they associate those softer skills with women and what women are good at.
Yeah.
Which, so I think that also makes sense that you would really want to enjoy that and recognize that that's important, because a lot of your work and initiatives and endeavors are really on the behalf of women. So let's take a look at Own Your Success, which you created to create a supportive community for women entrepreneurs. And it's a nonprofit. You have about 600 plus members. So you sort of created it because you believe that there are unique challenges for being a woman entrepreneur and that they have certain hurdles. So what do you feel are the challenges that are specific to being a woman entrepreneur?
Where to begin? I think, I mean, first and foremost, when you look at the sort of span of time and the amount of that time that women have been an active part of the workforce, not just entrepreneurs, but working, going to work at all, it's kind of a blip on the radar, comparatively speaking. And so I think that culturally, psychologically, there is still a big challenge and a huge gap in expectation and reality that women face. And COVID has just shined a giant spotlight on that. And that is...
And I think that the fear is that because women have had to either not continue to work because if schools close and that, I mean, the fear is that it's going to put us back 25 years.
And it has, in fact, already. It's astounding the number of women's jobs that have been lost since March.
And astounding the number of women who have had to leave the job force because they have to be the primary caretaker for for members of their families.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely. So there's still this expectation that we're gonna go to work full time, but then still come home and take care of the house and the dinner and the kids and the laundry and everything else. And now that's just totally intermingled because if you're still working, it's at home. And so it's just, but like I said, that's the expectation. And especially right now with COVID, I really don't like to make broad generalizations, but I do think for the most part, it's women who are leaving to stay home with the kids who are learning from home, not men.
I mean, that's the reality of it. It's, absolutely. But I mean, so so you believe that the challenge is one of the biggest challenge for women is this. Well, you call it. It's not a life-work balance, right? It's a life-work
blending.
And clearly, with COVID and stuff, we have seen that even more.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. A lot of times it will work based on the resources and support you get from your employer.
Right.
Because if they recognize like your kid might be wandering in, or, you can't, do a meeting, or, I always think, you don't really care when someone gets it done as long as they get it done,
Right.
But so you believe that this challenge is this life work blending that is different for women than for men.
I think, yes, that's definitely one of the biggest challenges. Another one is the wage gap. And sometimes people are confused when I say wage gap about entrepreneurs, because they think, well, if you own your own business, why is there a gap? Well, it goes back to some very deeply rooted cultural and societal expectations, where if you have side-by-side work from a man and a woman, the man's work is perceived to be better and more valuable. And, so still there exists this gap, which is even wider in Allen County than the national average. That was all pre-COVID. The data that I know from being on the women's study committee, that data was all pre-COVID. So I can only imagine that gap is even wider now.
Right. Well, they were saying, okay, so based on, this is the Allen County study that they did about the Women's Fund, Greater Fort Wayne did about looking at women and girls in Allen County. So they said that 75% of working age women are in the workforce.
Yeah.
84% of mothers in single parent households are in the labor force. Single mother households with children under the age of 18 in Allen County have a median income of $22,879, and only 10% of Allen County women make $75,000 or more a year, compared to 23% of men. And then 23% of working women don't have paid time off. So, there are definitely these issues that impede women from reaching their full economic potential, if you're an entrepreneur or not. I think that, and I had Cara LaPan on, and we were talking about this whole idea of I think that we need to define the difference between being an entrepreneur and being a business owner. Because I think that there are certain skills and traits and neat capabilities that you have to be an entrepreneur that you may not need to have as a business owner. And I don't think some women...
And vice versa.
Right. And I think some women think, oh, I want to do my own thing, but they don't necessarily have to be entrepreneurs. They could be, business owners. So I think, though, and that I think also partly when you look at entrepreneurs and you talk about the gap of salaries for entrepreneurs, women and men, is that women don't necessarily value what they do. So how they price or how they charge for their goods and services. And because a lot of the businesses that women are tending to start are service oriented. Now across the nation, the number one thing pre-COVID was retail, or different kinds, or or it could be a daycare center in their home, or and so. They are more service-oriented businesses. So I think that also creates the issue. And then clearly a lot of women become entrepreneurs because they see a need that either themselves or their friends have. So then we've got the pink, it's called, the pink business, and then VCs and people who invest, they don't get it, but it's not for them. So we've got a lot of those. We have the primary hurdles of the women and men equity in the workforce, and then you've got additional challenges for entrepreneurs. And so with Own Your Success, you have it that it's peer-to-peer mentoring, and you really believe in this sisterhood of women entrepreneurs. What do you think it is that is so important to have that sense of community for women entrepreneurs?
I think when I say we, I just mean women entrepreneurs, because I am one. So I think we do better work together. And what I mean by that is, even if we're not necessarily like, I'm making a widget and you're buying it from me to build your machine or something, but just supporting each other emotionally, referring other people to each other. I think we do a really fabulous job of telling ourselves that we're not doing a fabulous job and other people are doing it better than us. And again, I go back to, there are so many things kind of in society that tell us those messages and reinforce those messages too. That if one of your sort of sisters, so to speak, can come alongside you and be like, hey, what you're doing is really hard and you're doing a really good job at it. Oh my gosh, what that does for your sort of emotional well-being and even the quality of your work it can be so impacted by that. It's extremely powerful. And the transverse is completely true. One woman fires shots at another woman, figuratively speaking, which is, we sort of get a reputation for that being like bitchy, catty, whatever.
Well, I mean, I don't, you and I have talked about this offline about this whole idea of organizations designed to women to support women. And I don't think that women do that. I think women are very jealous.
A lot of women don't.
I think women think that there is a limited amount of, they don't go from the place of abundance with success. They think there's a finite amount.
Right.
And if I get it, you can't have it.
Right.
And I think that there is a lot of, talking behind each other's back and divisiveness. So I have a very hard issue, and I mean, time believing it. I mean, I like talking to you because you're really more optimistic about it and believe that women can support and build each other up.
Yeah.
But I just always feel that you're always living in high school. It's just.
And there are absolutely people who get stuck in that space. I really believe it because I see it play out in our group every single day. I mean, we have a secret group on Facebook, so people can't see what we're saying to each other. And but I've had members get on there and kind of come to the group with something very hard and personal that's happening and need a referral of somebody that they can trust. And not only do they get great referrals, but mostly what you will see in the comments is just support.
Right.
And that's just, again, that's so powerful. And I don't think that that's something that you see so much even on just your public page.
Right. Well, I don't really, I don't understand the whole why people need likes and why do people care what, it's another big thing is this whole issue of people worrying about what other people think about them. I don't understand that. I just think, why do you don't even know these people, so why do you care? Right. And I think that women also get stuck a lot there, But I think one of the things that I think, there are, I sort of feel like we're not getting this entrepreneurship thing right because there are so many. I mean, if you look at the number of books and the programs and the classes and the seminars and and there's lots of other organizations that will help women from WEOC and other programs and so. But I felt that Own Your Success has a very interesting and very forthright manifesto, and it is a manifesto. So can you tell me a little bit about what that is and what you're putting forth there?
I mean, the biggest difference for us is that we aren't about the technical skills that it takes to run your business. And I think that was the first conversation you and I ever had. Right. We're not going to teach you how to put your business plan together. We're not going to teach you how to run your budget or whatever it is that you're trying to do. Now, that being said, there might be people in the group who would certainly be happy to help you do that. We are more about just supporting you as a woman, as a human being through the challenges, many of which are emotional, of running a business.
Right, but you also said that so Own Your Success, women don't settle. We will not be written off or patronized by men in the entrepreneurial community who aren't our allies. I mean, you're really sort of, a manifesto is almost like, this is like, grounds for war in a sense. We're going to battle here. So I felt that was the first time that an organization, I really said that they have put it to the test of saying, okay, we're looking at this as a gender kind of issue, and we've outlined why you have to. Yeah. And then you also, again, this is where you and I somewhat disagree, but we will not be pitted against each other and end up in isolation. We're not imposters. Yeah. And that you're striving to create this space for women. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting was you created the Exalt awards, right? And
Yep.
how many years have you been doing this now?
Last year was actually just the first year.
Okay.
And so nominations are open again this year. And then we added another award this year that's for a young woman in high school or college who has started her own business.
That's the Buzz Award.
The Buzz Award, yeah.
Why do you think it was important to create awards that were specifically to sort of support the accolades? I mean, obviously, awards, you've gotten a lot of them, feel good and they sort of give you recognition. But, what was your reasoning to wanting to create these awards?
I think it's just about not only saying, like, I see you and the work that you are doing is important and good and hard. But also, I mean, again, there are lots of awards that even specifically women can get in the community. But even broadening from there, business owners in the community. But most of them are about, how big of a building did you build and how many employees are you?
They're more related to the actions of them within their business.
Yes.
Where what you really, and again, this is your, you and I, this is that friction, is that you really believe that you want to award women who help and build up other women. So you have the Lift, it's called the Lift Award, which is like a role model or mentor. Now, what is the Aileron Award? That's the one that's for selflessly reaching her wings. So I believe that's a bird, right?
Aileron is actually, if you look it up, it's like the wind force underneath the wing that like lifts the bird.
So that's like that, the wind beneath your wings.
Yeah.
And then you have
because our logo is a hummingbird, just for the people watching.
And then you have the Ruby, which was somebody who really took her depth of her experience and gave back to the entrepreneurial community. So they're really all about building that idea of women helping other women, and you're acknowledging that. Yep. So I think they're not like the Women in Business Award and, sort of they're...
Yeah. It's almost like, yes, you are a woman entrepreneur, but we're recognizing you because, like, you're just kind of amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
And you actually got Seed to sponsor it. And so Seed is, it's a education program that's done through the city, right? And then they have you're actually involved with the education, right? So tell me a little bit now. So Own Your Success is sort of where you and I would say the soft skills and more giving you a little bit more of the psychological kind of support and like therapy type of stuff.
Exactly.
And then programs like Seed or what you do with Elevate Northeast, those are more about the skills and the reality of building the business. You build them up, and then once you build them up, they can build the business, or you do it at the same time.
Yeah.
So talk about your involvement with Seed and also with Elevate and what you're doing there.
Sure. Well, for the Seed, I am a Build Institute facilitator. Build is a 9-week curriculum that helps you put together, I would say, like business plan 1.0. Business plan light. It's not like super in-depth, but it's a great first run at it if you've never put a plan together and you just have an idea or maybe just getting started. And there's a lot of great connections and resources that come along with that curriculum as well. You get to go through a StrengthsFinder assessment and coaching. You get to meet service providers from the community, like attorneys, accountants, bankers, that sort of thing, that can help kind of set you on the right path, again, with those technical aspects of your business. I really believe in the program. I've taught 5 cohorts, and I have a 6th one coming up starting in December, just as a testament to how much I believe in that program. And the way it is that you
pay, and then if you complete it, you get the money back. And you've actually had several women from your cohorts really go on and either launch or develop the businesses.
Yes. As a matter of fact, one of my, she went through Build. She was not one of my students, but I did get her the Fortitude Fund, which we'll talk about in a second, has gone on to launch her business. She's doing great things. There was an article about her in Input, and
she's the one who did the gripper, right?
No, this is a different woman.
What is she doing?
She has a transportation business. It's like medical but non-emergency type transportation, and I found out just the other day I was on a conference call, found out that she's going to be interviewed by Good Housekeeping, just as a result of the success that she has seen so far in her business and starting during COVID and all that kind of stuff. So, it's I can't say enough good things about that program. And then through Elevate, I do a lot of things with Elevate as well.
So let's break that down, because I am still I'm a little confused about Elevate. Because, so Elevate is an Indiana, it's all over the state, right? Okay, and it's designed to help promote entrepreneurs. I mean, in some cases it's funding, right? And then it also
That's the main purpose.
Right, because they do, like, they have their pitch contests and stuff like that. Okay, so but in Northeast Indiana as for entrepreneurship, so what is it that you do here? And talk about the Fortitude Fund.
So big picture, Elevate Ventures is a state-funded venture capital firm, which is a little different than a normal venture capital firm.
What makes it that it's state? So what does that mean? That
it's funded by the Indiana Economic Development Corporation. Okay. And typically a VC would be funded by investors. Right, by
private individuals or their own money. Right, okay.
So it's a little different, but kind of realizing that all of the businesses they were investing in were Indianapolis-based businesses, because that's where their offices are.
Right.
They put together these outreach sort of pods.
Okay.
And Elevate Northeast Indiana is one of those.
Okay.
So up here, we act as sort of like the pipeline builder for that venture capital investment activity.
Okay. So do you help people? Is it for people who have an idea, or is it people who already have an existing business?
Yes.
Okay. And so your role is to help them build the pitch and be able to present it to basically get funding. Right?
Yes. Yeah. That really is the ultimate goal.
Right. And is it mostly one-on-one, or is it in groups or classes, or?
My work with them?
With the Elevate, with the Northeast, which you would work with somebody.
Yeah, my work with them is mostly one-on-one, although we do have an entrepreneur in residence up here, so sometimes it's like the two of us working with that person, depending on where they are in their stage.
Okay.
And then once they go to pitch, that's in front of the whole team in Indy. Right. So, yeah.
And have we had any success of anyone pitching from here who's gotten funding from?
Yes. Yeah. In the last, I think, 2 to 3 years, Elevate has invested like $3.5 million into businesses in Northeast Indiana.
Based on these pitches. Okay. And then the Fortitude Fund is it's almost like it's $1,000, right? It's like
entry level,
right? Yeah, and you could apply for that based on where you are in your business. But I sort of wonder, if you're an entrepreneur wanting to start, what does $1,000 really get you? I mean,
yeah. Well, so I think it's a couple of things, and I like the touchy-feely side. So to me, it's kind of that like shot in the arm of like, these people believed in me and gave me a little something, and it's not an investment. It's actually just, we call it a grant. It's almost more of a gift.
It's really, it is. It is a grant. I mean,
But there's no like report back or anything really.
No,
so that's why I say it's almost more of a gift.
But I think for some people, but I just wonder, would it be better to take, and how much do they give a year? How many $1,000 grants will they give?
So, the initial, when like the fund kicked off, there was $200,000
and it was originally called the Farnsworth.
It was,
so that people did, but you changed the name to Fortitude.
So when the fund was kicked off as the Farnsworth Fund, now it's the Fortitude Fund, but it's all the same. It had $200,000 in the bucket. I'm super excited to say that we have actually granted out all of that money. And we're in the process of refilling the bucket now.
And how do you refill the bucket?
Fundraising.
So, okay.
Yeah,
So
that part is not
done
funded by the
But is
state.
that, okay, the Fortitude Fund is not.
Right, correct.
So, is the Fortitude Fund just something in Northeast Indiana? Is
Yes.
that something? Okay.
Yeah.
So that 200,000, so you basically gave out $1,000 to 200 people, right?
200 entrepreneurs. Yeah.
And so what kind of fundraising and stuff do you do in order to like, do you find that most of the, like, you helped me get a leg up, I'm going to, do you find that they'll give back those 200 or?
So we have not actually done the ask in that way. So
Okay.
far it's been corporate donations and grants from foundations.
Okay.
That have helped to replenish that fund.
And where are you in your replenishment?
I am thankfully not on the fundraising side of things,
okay.
so I'm going to just say I blissfully don't know, but I
Okay.
hear it's going well.
Okay.
So
And then, so did you have to wait? So you gave out the 200,000. Then do you have to wait till you sort of get more money in before you can? So it's like that was a cohort, and then you'll
Yeah.
have another.
Yes, exactly. So, so we're looking to relaunch it in January, and just I'm really excited about it. It sounds like
you've worked with between Own Your Success and Elevate, and we haven't even gotten to Tidewater yet. But what are the most common types of businesses and entrepreneurs that you've seen, and
Gosh, I don't even know that I can categorize because, again, with over 600 members, I think we had 604 the last time I looked, and then 200.
Right.
And now that's 200 grantees.
Right.
We've had at least 400 applicants to the Fortitude Fund. And of course, there's some crossover
Right, of
too
course,
between
yeah.
the two. But I mean, if there weren't, that's 1,000 unique businesses. Could I draw a through line and say most of them are this or a lot of them are that? Like, I don't know that I necessarily could. It's honestly a little bit of everything.
And then, when did you start Own Your Success?
I started Own Your Success 6 years ago last month.
So really, in 6 years, you have seen 1,000 entrepreneurs. I mean, that's a very robust, but that's a very robust entrepreneurial environment.
Yeah.
I mean, and what are the types of businesses? Because I think people don't really, understand. You don't all have to be creating the next, Google.
Right. And I think a lot of people too. A lot of people are surprised when I tell them we have 600 members because they can't think of like 5 women that own a business,
Right.
let alone, and it's because they think brick and mortar.
Right.
And so, to your point earlier, again, like a lot of them are service-based businesses, like my coaching practice,
Right.
for instance, but then there are landscapers, there are this woman who started a transportation company, there are a lot of food businesses, restaurants and food trucks and things like that.
There's also a lot of home-based businesses too.
Yep.
That people create. Like there's a lot of the and a lot of people who do jewelry and then they turn it into skincare lines or things like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
So there's a lot of those, and then there are. I mean, although some people wouldn't say they're entrepreneurs, but people who do the integrate marketing. Like they sell.
Yeah, multi-level marketing.
And I joke that I think that multi-level marketing is just the same as if you worked in a company in the sales department.
Exactly.
Because you have a sales manager, and then the sales manager has people, and then those people have people, which is the same as
And you're being provided with marketing and product.
You're provided with a product, and and then you also have really when you talk about women in the workforce and when they started, a lot of that was Mary Kay. And Tupperware.
Yes.
And having Tupperware and Avon. Those all started as, giving women and really running their own business in a sense.
Right. Yeah.
So,
there is definitely an entrepreneurial aspect to multi-level marketing businesses. You're certainly developing your own client base and doing kind of your own promoting of it and, all of those sorts of things. So I never, ever want to be disrespectful of that career choice for women.
Right.
I think, however, you are making money and supporting your family and feeling good about yourself, like, sister, go do that thing.
And that's like, even realtors. They, they're sort of, But I think that you're right. I mean, I don't, and that's why I think also, why do we have to distinguish between entrepreneurs and business owners? Because, what I was saying to Carl, my biggest belief about being an entrepreneur versus a business owner, I don't necessarily know that you can teach the innate things, the intangibles about being an entrepreneur. I can teach you the technical, skills. Yeah. But and I was saying, it's that comfort with risk.
Yes.
That is a big one you've got to be comfortable with uncertainty and risk and not knowing and, and putting a lot on the line. Yeah. But you also have to be smart enough to know what to put on the line and when to call it quits, also.
And I think innovating is the other piece of that, that big difference, because if you're owning the business, if you're a business owner, to me, that's like the day-to-day, you're making sure all of the things are in a row and all of that. Entrepreneurship is about continuing to look forward and, whether that's pivot because we're in a pandemic or the market is calling for a different product
it's really where an entrepreneur is where you see an opportunity to disrupt change or a need that's not being met and willing to go for that. And you really have to sort of have blinders on and, it's sort of like, when I
first, obsessed.
Yeah. When I first started my first company, I was living in New York City and I took my $20,000 and started it in my apartment. And when my parents would call, they'd be like, what are you doing? You can't eat. You're not eating. You can't survive this way. What are you doing? And I had to stop talking to them for 4 months. I said, I just can't talk to you. I can't justify this to you. And, and then they'd be like, oh, do you have a plan B? And I'm like, no, I don't have a plan B because failing is not an option. Right. It's not an option. So, I mean, I think that sometimes you have to know, and that's why, I think some people who own franchises, you still own your own business. Right. It's just that you get a lot of the support and things. You don't have to create, and you get the best practices. Yeah. So I don't know. I think that if we sort of would also open up to women and sort of be more inclusive than just saying entrepreneurs, but women who are entrepreneurial and or business owner or even business minded, I think we would have a much better, you'd have a much bigger membership and for programs and things, because a lot of people just think, well, I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm not, they think of, the guys, who create something in their garage and, they're selling it and that's not really the case.
Right.
And, the other thing that I think that, and this is a true entrepreneur, and I think what's so interesting is that you work with entrepreneurs and you see entrepreneurs and you, in addition to having those kinds of experiences, you also are an entrepreneur. But you have done what a lot of entrepreneurs don't think to do, which is you have your entrepreneurial endeavor, but you also have some other ways that sort of ensure that there's some money coming in the door because, and that's the best way to do it is sort of and that's why a lot of people start with side gigs or side hustles. And, but you've really been able to sort of bring it all together, which is also a true sign of an entrepreneur. And I think out of your success and then out of what you see from the Northeast Northeast Indiana, you created Tidewater Coaching. So tell me the significance of the name.
First and foremost, I love the ocean. I love the beach and being warm, and don't ask me why I live in Fort Wayne, Indiana, if that's my favorite thing, but...
you and I could have switched, because, I lived in Miami.
I know.
Ask me the last time I went to the beach or the ocean, so,
Yeah, so that was, if I'm going to build a business that I love, what do I love is the beach. So that was, and then... my degree is actually in painting, and so in my coaching and in everything, I'm a very visual person, and so to me, that interplay of work and life, the work-life blending that I talk about, to me is like the waves of the ocean coming in and out. It's constant. Everything is always moving and shifting. Some days it's crazier than others.
Some days there's going to be a riptide.
Exactly. And so, on my website, I think it even says something about when the ebb and flow of your work life and personal life is leaves you feeling like you're drowning in your career. that's when we need to talk.
Well, I think it's also some of that they say, you can have it all, you just can't have it all at one time.
Yeah.
And that's why also I say, like, being an entrepreneur, sometimes in your life, you want high risk, high reward. So you're going to go all for it. But sometimes, just because of where you are or whatever, you need that paycheck, so you go for low risk, low reward. And so that's what people sort of have to realize. But so you really, one of the things that I want to talk to you about is, how do you differentiate between coaching versus therapy?
Well, what I do, I actually call it therapy for entrepreneurs, because it is, again, for women, it is very intermingled. I would say women are like cooked spaghetti. It's all together in one bowl. And so,
although it depends if you put a little oil in the water and you make it a little al dente, so you're the chef there.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a fine line for me, to be completely honest, and that's why my path, my vision for it is to go ahead and
become like a social worker, so that you really could be,
but maintaining the focus on women entrepreneurs and
the difference probably really with coaching and therapy is, therapy spends a lot of time looking at how you became who you are, and what things happened to you, and how you can see the connections in the patterns. Where coaching is really about now and moving forward and being actionable with, and then sort of really also finding solutions for these emotional and mental blocks. But do you feel that really is critical for women to have that?
Absolutely. I think one of my favorite moments recently, and it was actually with a high school age girl. I was invited to be like a guest for a class, and we were talking about entrepreneurship and the things that you think through when you're starting your business. And I said, you have to make it something that you love, because your work is going to chew you up and spit you out sometimes, and you still have to love it enough to get up and do it.
And the determination and the perseverance, right?
And so I asked the girls, they were being very shy, and so I asked them to put in the chat box, what is something that you love, and then let's pick a couple of those and talk about how you can make it a business. And so they were putting things in there, like one girl was like, I love to run. One girl said, I love to bake. I love to dance, those kind of things. And we started talking about that. And one girl, I loved her so much. I loved her absolute, utter vulnerability. She unmuted herself and she goes, I don't know if what I like is what I like, or if it's just what I do because it's what all of my friends do. And I just had the biggest epiphany in that moment, where I was like, girlfriend, grown women have this struggle.
That's what I was going to say. Women are worried about, they do, it's all keeping up with the Joneses and appearances.
Or when I was a kid, my parents told me this is what I should do, and then I got a job doing it, and it's what I've always done, and I don't even think I like it.
Right.
And yes, I'm working with at least 4 different women right now who are on this struggle of like, self-discovery. What do I like? Right. What fills my soul? Well, that was in the
Runaway Bride. Remember the Julia Roberts? She was married, engaged, and she liked whatever type of eggs the guy liked. Yeah. And then she had to finally figure out what type of eggs she really liked. Yeah. And I think that's true, that we sort of want to mold and fix ourselves. But one of the other things that I think within your coaching is you use a lot of assessments. And before you mentioned the strength finders. So, I mean, I was looking at mine, and, there's Strength Finder, there's Myers-Briggs, there's Enneagram, then there's the one you introduced me to, the Predictive Index Behavioral Assessment, then there's the Dale Carnegie Leadership, I mean, do you think that these are good to do and to use? And
absolutely. I think different assessments definitely have different purposes, and I even think different assessments will speak to different people. Right. Enneagram is very, for lack of a better phrase, sort of touchy-feely.
Well, it's a lot more like what I would say is like astrology, kind of in that vein. And the way they show you, and they call you the wing, what you're,
Right. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, because when I did my Enneagram, I was like, yep, that's me to a T. Right. So that's not to say like I don't believe in it or something. I totally, yes, it was very accurate. I think certain of them are very good for like hiring staff and like, doing
that's Strength Finder. They do, that's a lot of what Gallup, is saying, and the skills that they have to have.
Yeah. And so, but yeah, do I believe in assessments? Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Now, and the one you really do is this predictive index, right? That's a big one.
That's through, so with Tidewater, one of my clients is a corporate leadership organization, and so they do predictive index. But I do find it to be a very interesting tool, and it was not something I had done before I started working with them.
And talk about what that is, what the predictive, because that was one I didn't know, and then I did it. So, because immediately I was like, I had to go look it up and be like, okay, because I think all these things are interesting to sort of see. And so tell me, what do you think that the predictive index measures or assesses that other ones don't?
I think the interesting thing about predictive index is that it not only has a self-awareness piece from this is how I view myself. This is what I think of myself. But then that second part of it that you experienced was, this is what I think other people think of me.
Right.
And then it gives you sort of that synthesis breakdown of the gap between how you show up and how other people are expecting you to show up. And so, I find it very fascinating.
And that's also like if you did the 360-degree reviews and things like that. And you and I talked about, but see, what I'm more curious about is, okay, so I know that my predictive index, I'm a venturer, okay? But like I told you, I want to know, what would all the other types, like how do I interact with them? How do they perceive a venturer? So like I should know, like, okay, if you have this type of person, you need to tone it down, or this type of person, you can't be, you gotta do it this way. Or, I really want, that's what I want. I don't need to find out about I want to know, how do I use that to my advantage, or how is it hurting me in certain situations? So I feel like nobody is really doing that. Like with like even the Strength Finder, because I know like at the Northeast Indiana Regional Partnership, they're really into that, and everybody has their 5 things. But I want to know, okay, so if I'm a strategic thinker and achiever, but this person is, a more emotional whatever, I want to know what's the best way to get them to sort of collaborate or to be able to communicate. And nobody really talks about that aspect of it.
That is the beauty of the coaching that you get after you take the assessment. So because of that professional relationship, I'm actually going through training with them on the coaching aspect of PI.
So then you would coach me, and then I could learn
so
the
we
insights.
could actually talk about it, and I could work you through some of that.
I think we might have to.
Yeah.
Now, a very interesting thing that many people do not know about you is the amount of things you know about paper.
I know a ridiculous amount about paper.
Why is that?
Because the first 10 years of my career, I worked for a paper company. It was just like Dunder Mifflin, if you ever watched The Office. But I did sales and marketing for them, and I helped graphic designers choose the right paper for their projects, and I absolutely fell in love with the paper making process and the different colors and the different textures, and
how paper makes a difference.
Yes, how it can just dramatically impact the final product.
Right. And have you thought about how that was your first job, parlayed to how it got you to here? Do you see that? Because you were talking about how things look, how they're presented, how you look at it. You were doing sales and marketing for them.
Yeah. Oh, so, there was definitely a progression. Yeah.
So, do you? What's your favorite fact about paper?
Oh gosh. I love my favorite fact about paper. I don't know, but I will tell you my favorite kind of paper if it is uncoated, so not like the shiny glossy magazine paper.
No, matte is
Yeah. Uncoated, thick and like toothy, so like has some texture to it, not like a linen or something, more like a cotton, like handmade.
Okay.
That's the best.
So now we all are going to want to get copies of your stationery and your collateral material for Tidewater, because I want to know what you're printing it on.
Yes.
So, but at the end of each And Good Company program, I ask guests the same 12 questions that French novelist Marcel Proust popularized from a Victorian parlor game. What is your favorite word?
Empathy.
What is your least favorite word?
Hate.
What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Conversation.
What turns you off creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Isolation.
What sound or noise do you love?
Rain.
What sound or noise do you hate?
Traffic.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Airline stewardess.
You want to travel. What profession would you not like to do?
Like anything medical.
What do you consider your greatest achievement?
My daughter.
Who, living or dead, would you most like to have a conversation with?
Brene Brown.
How would you like to die?
Peacefully in my sleep.
If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
So glad you're here.
I would think maybe that there were some coaching opportunities for you, and, But I want to thank you for coming and sitting at the table and having an interesting conversation about women and their roles and how do they, move forward and help each other. So I think I'm slowly coming to your side on that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for asking me to do this. It was fun.
And I hope you will join me next time when you can again enjoy a seat at the table for great conversation and good company.